views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the individuals participating in the show. All persons described or mentioned in the podcast should be considered innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. This podcast contains subject matter such as violence and graphic descriptions along with adult language, which may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
On May 1st, 2014, in Waupeton, North Dakota, a North Dakota State College University student disappears without a trace. He's found several months later with a gunshot wound ruled as his cause of death. Though the police have made a strong stance that it was suicide, there is strong evidence indicating not only foul play through the perpetrator, but from law enforcement themselves. You're listening to the Mysterious Brews podcast, and tonight we bring you the case of Andrew Sadek.
It's been nearly 4 years since Andrew Sadek was found with a gunshot wound to the head after his role as a confidential drug informant. Now, an upcoming hearing may bring Sadek's parents closer to the long-awaited trial for what many call a wrongful death. Valley News Team's Rose Itzkovitz has the latest on the long-standing investigation and why the state has been reluctant to hand over information to the family.
We want to know what's the status, what leads are being followed, are there any suspects, and what has happened from the day that Andrew disappeared until now.
Tim O'Keefe represents Andrew Sadek's parents in their wrongful death lawsuit against Richland County Deputy Sheriff Jason Weber. Nearly 4 years after his death, O'Keefe says there are still many holes.
And if there's some other information out there that is going to show us that we're wrong, that's fine.
Welcome to a deep, dark, dank, moist basement somewhere in the It's Fall, Y'all, Georgia.
Pumpkin spice abounds, my friend.
That's right, brother. So One Take Coach has made his way back, y'all. I mean,
That's right, baby. That was awesome.
After 2 weeks of just having to hear himself say it, he's like, you know what? I'm up for the challenge. I'm going one take.
It was hard. Might not be the best take, but it's the one we're fucking going with.
That's right.
No, dude, it's chilly, man.
I got no sweatpants on, boy. Like I've turned into my grandparents. It is 60-something degrees outside, and I got on sweatpants and a sweatshirt.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining. It's just my body's got to get used to it.
Yeah, you can't be giving me 85-degree days and then whip out a high of 60 with misty, shitty rain.
Yeah, like for real. Like this is what I said to myself at the beginning of the school year, because you got to sign up for extra duties. That's what they put in your contract. And by extra duties means a bunch of shit you don't want to do, including work a football gate and take up money.
But that's better than driving the cheerleading team anywhere.
Yeah, well, I ain't never driving a bus. But anyway, I signed up beginning of the year for Friday the 13th. I said, surely it won't be a crowded game. Surely it will be kind of cool, not hot, not cold, but cool. It's going to be a good time. Well, come Friday the 13th, extra crowded because the team's doing really well. Extra cold for some reason. And then 15 minutes before kickoff, it just starts raining. And I'm sitting there freezing, wearing shorts and a shirt because I'm an idiot.
When I coached football the last time, I had no shit. Like, I covered every weather event in that locker they gave us. And it was still the same red lockers you probably used when you were there.
Yeah.
But I had a rain suit that doubled as a track suit you could lose weight in with your wrestlers. Because if you put the pants and the jacket on, you were losing at least 15 pounds of water weight without even trying, because that damn thing was like an oven. And then I had wind pants if it was just windy. I had a sweatshirt. I had a hooded sweatshirt. And then I had like thermals. I had coach's shorts, t-shirts without the sleeves in it. And everybody's like, my God, dude, it's not July. And I'm like, you don't know. You have no idea during football season what's about to happen.
No, it's not in Georgia. You don't.
No.
God, no.
And one year we coached, I swear to God, we played in the rain every Friday night.
Yeah, except when Nick Chubb ran about 747 yards on our defense.
That is true. That was a big human being to see on the hoof.
And he was out of shape. I don't care what anybody says. He was out of shape in high school. He'd run one play. I think I remember Nick Chubb against our team. If you took him out of the game, our team won 14-10. But with him in the game, it was 52-10.
You're right. They let him his senior year. They let him
52-14. I'm sorry.
His senior year, they let him play. They let him start first series on defense and first series on offense, and he hit our poor right guard so hard as a linebacker blitzing. I think that kid still has damage.
This is no bullshit. I remember thinking in my head that Chubb was a nickname because he was a chub. He was chubby. But I looked, it's the first time he ran the ball, I was like, yeah, he'll play in the NFL. I was like, that kid's special. He's got God-given talent, God-given mind for the game, and he's just flat out good.
And there's that picture of him vertical leaping at the state track meet that year, and everybody's like, he's going to play football? And I'm like, yep, that guy right there doing like a 42-inch vertical leap. But anyway, we did have a lot of love on the Patreon comments for our Summer Wells case.
Nice.
I was going to bring up is it in this one? There's a poll that I did on both Spotify and just Patreon, and basically Mama is the leading winner in both. It's the same poll, so two different areas. Nobody believes she walked out on her own. We do have a strong, they're tied, that she somehow made it to the road, either like playing with the dogs or chasing the dogs or something. There's a lot of people that believe she made it to the road and then just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And then same amount of people said the missing 411 vibes. So
it does. It did. I mean, Loomy Joe coming through with that. I didn't even think about it, but it makes sense.
We've got
what do you think? No, go ahead.
I was going to say most of our Patreon patrons think that Mama is not telling the whole story. They don't know how it went down. They just think that she's convinced herself it wasn't her fault, therefore she can I guess pass the polygraph. But anyway,
what'd you think about that new Bigfoot video from Colorado with the beautiful flowing golden hair?
That's what I was about to say. When I first saw it,
straightened, and
I was going to say when I first
he went to a good salon.
That's Vidal Sassoon right there, baby.
Oh yeah.
When I first saw it and it sat down and blended in, I was like, "Dang, dude, that's impressive. Like maybe this we're on to something." And then I saw it again, and then you can see like the hair's like perfectly coiffed and radiantly beautiful, and so yeah. At first glance, it was eye candy, and then when you watch it more than once, you're like, they knew that train was coming.
Yep.
So
I think so. I don't buy it. But it's dangerous to go out there in a suit. So people were saying, ghillie suit, if they were.
No, the ghillie suit's not shiny though. I'm just saying not against you, but against the people saying ghillie suit. Trust me, you don't want, as someone having to put one of them on as a work uniform, you don't want that thing being shiny.
No doubt.
Oh, me. But yeah, I don't know. There's something else about, like, the arms didn't hang low enough for me, too. Like, that's what, everybody doesn't understand, when you get into a lot of these Bigfoot videos, the hands come down past the knees. And that's sometimes that'll stop you and you'll think, hey, there might be something to it, but hell, we could turn this into a Bigfoot podcast at any given moment, but we're not going to do that.
Well, don't you tempt us now.
I know. We'll do it in a heartbeat. We'll tell you about videos you need to pull up and watch while we describe that we've not watched in 5 years. But anyway, all right. So tonight's case is a user, listener, whatever request from North Dakota, Mr. Andrew Sadek.
And it's not going to be one that's you're going to leave happy. You're probably going to be very pissed off by the time this is over.
Yes. It's not, it has some fuckery vibes to it. I can tell you that. Now,
absolutely.
Andrew was born on November 22nd, 1993 to parents John and Tammy Sadek in Valley City, North Dakota. He grew up on his family's cattle farm outside of Rogers, North Dakota, and was the youngest of two boys, with his older brother Nicholas being 6 years older. He grew up with a love of the outdoors and the farming life. He was an avid fisherman, hunter, and basically, after he got, I think, past the age of 10, I read somewhere, he would spend most afternoons, if he wasn't hunting or fishing, basically piddling in a garage on cars. It was a life right out of a Norman Rockwell painting, as one news article stated. Andrew and Nicholas would spend a lot of their days together while growing up, but unfortunately, when Andrew was 12, tragedy struck the Sadek family, and in 2005, Nicholas, who was 18 at the time, and his girlfriend were struck by a train at a railroad crossing. From what I could learn about this accident, the train tracks were not marked, and it appears that the crash was accidental. I do not know if the girlfriend perished in the crash as Nicholas did, but there's not a whole lot of information out there. Nonetheless, the family was broken, but pushed on, choosing to celebrate Nicholas's life and the good times they had with him. Now, all through elementary school and into Andrew's teenage years, he was considered a shy, introverted young man. He stuck with his close friends and stayed out of trouble in school. His brother's death did affect him pretty severely, but he swallowed his grief and persevered by keeping himself heavily relied on by the family and friends that he entrusted. He would go on to graduate from Valley City High School in 2012, and after high school, he decided to attend Wahpeton, I think that's how you call it, Wahpeton College at the time. Now it's known as North Dakota State College of Science in Wahpeton, on an electrician scholarship. Now, this program offered a 2-year degree and an opportunity for Andrew to work outside and work with his hands. His mom would tell the local newspaper, quote, he just loved working with his hands. He preferred to do that instead of being book smart. He wasn't at the top of his class in high school, but he was the top of his class in the vocational tech center, end quote. And that's a lot of kids. I mean, a lot of kids are, the books don't get, and there's nothing wrong with that, and as we are slowly starting to realize, the blue-collar jobs are people are retiring faster than people can hire. So
pay them.
That's right, baby.
You want these lazy, entitled fucking millennials to do something, you got to pay them.
Now, in his first...
There's something very much at odds with me about that whole thing. It's like, yeah, I'm fully gung-ho about raising the minimum wage, actually paying people, but some of these fucking kids, man. Come on.
They expect to come out of college making what someone with 10 or 12 years experience has made with work experience, and they have none, so there's a disconnect there. But in Andrew's first year at college, he lived just as he had done all throughout his life, all through high school. He was quiet, studied, kept to himself, kind of introverted. Stayed away from the party crowd, focused on getting his electrician degree. However, it was at this time, about the end of his first year, that he slowly started breaking out of that shy shell of his. And he started making new friends, and basically the light bulb went off, and Mom and Dad wasn't around, so he started taking advantage of some freedom he had while he was at school. And in 2013...
Who don't? You don't want to know what I did when I left for school. I went from a small town in Georgia to 30 minutes outside of Nashville, 177.3 miles from my house to my dorm room. Don't ask me how I know that exactly, but that's a long way from my mama's rules. I did a whole lot of stuff that I shouldn't have.
Yeah, we all get in that, holy shit, would you looky there? Ain't nobody to stop me.
At the time in my life where I needed someone to stop me the most.
I agree. I was there. I could tell some stories that I would rather not on air. But yeah, we've all done shit where we're like, how am I still alive? Why am I not in jail still? But anyway, in 2013, Andrew's social life would reach its highest point, and rumors allegedly circling at the time and allegedly still circling at this time claim that it was during such period of his life in which Andrew began selling a little marijuana across the campus. He had a small, very small operation that would sadly lead to massive consequences and a mystery that remains to this day. In April of 2013, Andrew makes his first confirmed sale of marijuana to other college kids. And he uses the campus parking lot at the school as his meeting spot, I guess.
Which we can agree is not at all the smartest place for him to do such a thing.
No.
But being a college-minded kid, it probably made the most sense to him. But, looking back on it with 42-year-old eyes, like, that's pretty dumb, bro. Like, come on.
Yeah, that was not very smart.
Like, they used to set up roadblocks on one certain road in my hometown because the high school and the middle school was across the street. And if they stopped you on that road, guess what? You're within so many feet of a school, and whatever you had on you automatically became a felony. They would do that all the time. When the sun went down, you did not go on that road.
Some things never change in small towns. It's the same playbook. Sometime between his first sale and October of 2013, he ends up making a sale to a confidential informant. Now, Andrew's fellow students were working for the Southeast Multi-County Agency, also known as SEMCA. Now, SEMCA is a task force comprised of police officers from drug enforcement agencies around southeastern North Dakota counties of Ransom, Richland, and Sargent, as well as the neighboring Minnesota county of Wilkin. Now, the first sale to the confidential informant was 3.5 grams for $60. And then he made a second sale to the confidential informant of just 1 gram for $20. As a result of that second sale to a confidential informant, SEMCA performs a search of Andrew's college dorm in November of 2013, which Andrew consented to. And these SEMCA agents discover marijuana residue on a orange plastic grinder, and after a little bit of conversation, Andrew admits ownership of the grinder. Now, here's where the fuckery starts.
The only thing you should ever acknowledge ownership of is the lawyer you've hired.
That's right. That is right. Lawyer. Is that your grinder? Lawyer.
Yeah, we have to talk to my lawyer about whose grinder that is. Yeah. I don't know what he would say.
The fuckery is that he's not arrested or charged with a crime at the time they find this stuff in his dorm room. The day after they search his dorm room, he is requested to come down to the Richland County Sheriff's Office, and Richland County Deputy and Simca officer Jason Weber informs him that under North Dakota law, selling marijuana on a college campus is a Class A felony. He is told that he could be facing a possible 40-year sentence based on the two charges.
That is fucking ridiculous. It's just marijuana.
And it's a first offender. Like, he moved, what, 4.5 grams?
Yeah, it wasn't much at all. Like, you gonna give somebody 40 years because of the location he was at, not the activity he was doing?
And this is the undercurrent of this whole story, investigation, and everything. They play on his small town ignorance. And I'm not saying, and people get offended when you call them ignorant. It's not that you're stupid. It's that you're just uneducated.
Ignorance does not mean stupid. You just don't know.
Right.
You are ignorant to the information.
Right. He didn't grow up around it. He's not, no one ever working on a cattle farm. There's not many times that somebody pulls up, accuses you of something, and you have to go, hey, I need a lawyer. So this is where I think the police exploited his small town, rural farming upbringing. And they do this over and over. But anyway, he does agree during this interrogation, question, whatever you want to call it. And it's out there on YouTube if you want to watch it. There's 2 different versions out there, so make sure that you read the descriptions. But anyway, he agrees at some time during this whole thing that he will himself become a confidential informant for Simca. And
which really is just fucked up. I mean, you're going to tell this small town kid, hey, 40 years of your life, you'll get out when you're right before you're 60, you'll be fine. Or you can just do a few things for us. And him being the person he is, if I was 18 years old, 19 years old, and they presented that to me, there's no way I wouldn't take it. Because I'm 18, I'm 19. I don't know the true danger of what they're asking me to do.
And they also they kind of exploit with some of these young kids prison time versus jail time. And if you don't think there's a difference between jail time and prison time, you need to go take a tour somewhere. But anyway, before November comes to a close, Andrew makes his first 2 buys as a confidential informant. And they were a pair of controlled purchases in the amount of $60 each for 3.5 grams, just like he got busted with. A couple of months later, in January of 2014, Andrew orchestrates a different controlled purchase of similar size to both of his first 2 buys. Now, this is still under the oversight of Simca. After those January purchases, Andrew decides, I've had enough of this shit, and stops all controlled dealing with Simca. So they somehow find him. I guess they roll up on him somewhere and basically tell him that they need him to make 2 more official purchases, one from a known dealer whom Andrew used to buy from for himself, as well as one from an unidentified dealer, which is asinine. You're going to send a kid that's never bought from somebody with a wire to go buy. That's what I don't understand, man.
Like welcome to Mysterious Brew.
Is that your code word for, hey, don't say nothing, dumbass, I'm a confidential informant?
Yeah. Hey, that's what I'm going to say. Please subscribe on OnlyFans. Like,
people coming in would be like, that is not the guy I bought from last time. He's got to be like, winky, winky, somebody's listening.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Simca goes ahead and tells Andrew that.
Okay, so hold on. I know you said it. I know I heard you say it. But for the people at home that might not be real good at remembering shit, not me.
Not you.
Not me.
Not you. You just playing the role.
Yeah, I'm just playing that role. What is SIMCA again? What does it stand for?
It is the Southeast Multi-County Agency. I guess they had a bunch of damn drugs going on in those three North Dakota towns and a bordering Minnesota town or county.
Well, I mean, bro, it's North Dakota. What else you got to do?
Well, that is true. So
I mean, I live in Georgia. There ain't much else to do here either other than stay bored like I do.
Yeah, and I mean, we both have discussed in detail why we're not partakers anymore. But anyway, so basically he's made 2. They want him to make 2 more. One of them is to a new dealer he's never dealt with, and I'd be like, no, you can go fuck off. But anyway, they basically tell him if he'll do this, he's fulfilled his obligations, and he'll have to. I think the thing was he'd have to plead guilty to a possession charge, but he blows them off. And what's weird is he blows off the whole SIMCA thing, but he keeps in contact with this sheriff's officer, Jason Weber. He keeps in contact with him from January all the way through April on a monthly basis. And in between these meetings, is preparing, however you want to look at it. Basically, he's getting his life together because he travels to Bismarck and Grand Forks, North Dakota, to interview for job positions as an electrician. He also begins dating a new girlfriend, and he's setting himself up for life after college. He's got a plan. He's got him a new girl. And on the weekend of April 25th and 26th, he returns home to Rogers, North Dakota, to visit his family and help out with the cattle ranch because it's spring calving season. On the evening of the 26th, Andrew returns to his dorm and talks to his mother on the phone. During their phone call, they discuss how their cell phone plan is reaching its data limit at the time. Now, this would be the last contact that Andrew makes with his family. Now, a few days go by, and on April 30th, Andrew goes out with his roommate, Drew Kugel, and a few other friends. The whole group goes, gets something to eat, grabs some drinks. They return to the dorm room at Nordgard Hall, which is their dormitory, and they decide to watch a movie. When the movie ends, Drew and Andrew head to their room and call it a night. And a couple hours later, at around 2 a.m. on May 1st, 2014, security cameras around Nordgard Hall capture Andrew walking out of the building. He is wearing a Tampa Bay Buccaneers hoodie, a black backpack, and he has his phone with him. The phone, however, is turned off when the security cameras pick him up. Now, this would be the last confirmed sighting of Andrew alive. So his roommate, Drew, wakes up the next morning, notices that Andrew's not there, but doesn't think too much about it, assumes that he went to visit his girlfriend. But by the afternoon, Drew and Andrew's other friends have realized they have not seen him in the classes they share with him. They've not seen him on campus. He's not come back to the dorm room. And they quickly report him missing to campus police. Kudos to campus police because they look back at the CCTV footage, see him walk out, and they contact local law enforcement agencies, and they start the ball rolling. Now, somewhere along that trail, SIMCA gets wind of Andrew's disappearance and immediately speculates that he has run away to avoid his confidential informant duties and responsibilities that he still owed them. And according to them, allegedly in an attempt to persuade Andrew to resurface, SIMCA charges him with the 2 original felonies they threatened him with a year earlier in 2013.
Well, let me tell you something. If I run away to avoid my mandatory informant duties, the only way to get me to resurface is to charge me with 2 felonies. That'd be the only way. I would be like, no, I really need to go face that. I really need to go to jail for 40 freaking years. That's going to get me out of hiding. What the ever-loving fuck?
I know. That's why I said allegedly at the time. That we got some real geniuses doing this.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, they're geniuses. So a few days...
Sounds like it.
Yeah, a few days after his disappearance and still no trace of him, the Sadek family pleads for him to return. Their plea is for him to return home and help with the spring calving on the ranch. This is to no avail, and from early May to late June of 2014, investigators are searching the surrounding areas closest to North Dakota State College of Science, where he was attending school. They interview family members, his friends, his classmates, and basically, from what I could gather, they searched for 50 days, and they don't turn up a single clue until the last day of spring / first day of summer on June 27th, 2014. A police dive team discovers a body in the waters of Red River near Breckenridge, Minnesota, which is across from Wahpeton. And the way that they discover this body, it was a training exercise for rescue divers / recovery divers, and it was not in an official search capacity for Andrew. They identify Andrew after a dental records match. And I believe they also sent off some DNA stuff, and it comes back a match too. But through a very thorough autopsy by both the medical examiner and the state police medical examiner, the cause of death is announced as a gunshot wound to the head. But what they cannot confirm is whether it was a self-inflicted gunshot or if it was homicide.
Now, did you see in your research anywhere like the location of the hole? Was it in the front of the head, the back of the head, side of the head?
I didn't, and I was wondering the same thing. So I'm thinking if it was in the back of his head, that would be all over the news. You know, how did he?
Well, also, I mean, it's the front of his head. Like, how many people?
Not many. Yeah, most of them's to the side.
Most of them's either to the side of the head or underneath the chin.
Yeah. And I didn't really dig real deep to see if I could find the autopsy medical examiner's report, and I'm sure it's out there. But finding stuff in South Dakota is harder than you would think. There's not a whole lot you have to put in for requests, and we just don't have that much forethought. But anyway, so this is where the family and the police basically decide to part ways, because law enforcement just jumps straight to he kills himself. This is suicide, and the family's like, the hell it is. He would not do this. Not only would he not do it to himself, he wouldn't do it to us as his family, because we lost his brother in an accident. Now, they, as in the authorities, both Simca and North Dakota State Police and the local law enforcement agencies, are saying that he committed suicide to permanently escape from his confidential informant work. And it's at this point, like I said, not only does the family go, hold on, bullshit, but this is where the case takes a turn, because there's a bunch of inconsistencies. There's rumors, unspecified, unspecific results, that a lot of hearsay gets thrown into the mixture of this official case by law enforcement. And it throws his whole investigation in a state of disarray, and to the point where even, I think, a private investigator hired by the family is like, look, it's so fucked up, I don't know what to believe. But anyway, on Andrew's birthday, which was November 22nd, 2013, that's the day that he's brought in for that interview with Jason Weber. And remember, they don't arrest him. They just ask him to come down there and let's talk, and that's never a good idea, boys and girls. Never a good idea.
No, not without a lawyer.
So
Just saying.
if you watch that video I was talking about on YouTube, the guy does a good job of kind of keeping it. It's very similar to Damien Eccles' interview. He doesn't realize they are digging a hole, and every time he answers a question, he's covering himself up with dirt. But anyway, there's some clues in the video that you can pick up on if you're a true crime follower. If you're not, I'm sure there's someone out there that has dissected it, but make sure that you watch at least a little bit of it. I've got a small transcript, and this is what this is why we always say get a fucking lawyer, whether it's a traffic ticket or they find a grinder in your damn dorm room. But anyway, so the officer says, "It's your birthday." Jason says, "Yes." Officer says, "Probably not what you want to be doing on your birthday, huh?" He says, "No." And so this goes on. "So did you tell your roommate what you have going on today?" Jason says, "No." Andrew says, "No." "All right, that's probably a good thing." "Well, you expressed interest that you probably want to help yourself out." Andrew says, "Yes." Weber says, "Like I said, you're facing 2 felonies, and then, of course, the misdemeanor charge from yesterday, 2 felonies of deliveries since they took place on campus, both of them. So they're Class A felonies, 20 years of prison, $20,000 fine, and or both. Do you understand that?" And he was like, "Yes, I understand it." And so he reiterates the fact, potentially you're looking at a max of 40 years in prison and $40,000 fine. Obviously, you're probably not going to get 40 years, but it's a good possibility that you're going to get some prison time if you don't help yourself out. And so Andrew's like, "Yeah, okay." Weber goes on, says, "That's probably not a way to start off your young adult life and career, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for you to do some buys for me, though, okay, where you have to wear a wire." And I'd be like, no. Y'all can get one of them big parabolic things and stick it in the general direction, but you ain't putting nothing on me. Anyway, you got to wear a wire. You have to buy marijuana from individuals. And then, depending on how you do and so forth, a lot of this could go away. It's all going to go away probably, but more than likely, probably not. Are you probably going to have to plead guilty to maybe a misdemeanor possession? Probably so, but at least you're not pleading guilty to 2 Class A felonies. Is that fair enough? Andrew says, "Yes, that's very fair." So Weber keeps going. "Is there any individuals that you know on campus or around town or whatever that you can buy from?" Andrew says, "There's one chick that sells out of the campus apartment that I know of." Weber says, "Who's that?" Andrew says, "I'm not sure the name, but I have a few buddies that buy from her." "Would it be uncommon for you to buy that much?" So I'm guessing 3.5 grams is a big old buy for some of these college kids. And Andrew says yes. And Weber comes back and says, "I mean, if you went and you bought that much, would she be like, what the hell?" And he says, "Probably, maybe, I don't know." "What if you went and bought an ounce? That would be more reasonable," is what Andrew says. "That would be more reasonable to say you're trying slow, make some money on campus." And Andrew says, "I guess." And then Weber goes on, says, we could try and entertain that idea, setting up with Fargo. That's the different task force, but you're willing to help them out. Then, I'll give you credit down here. You can't buy from anybody else. Andrew totally misses that whole statement about Fargo. And he says, "No, I have a lot of people that I talk to and I know buyers, but no, I don't have anybody else that I can buy from on campus." So that's why I wanted to read that, because all of a sudden this poor college kid grew up on a cattle farm. He's been bamboozled into coming in without any charges filed against him to give an interview that's obviously being videotaped if you can watch it on YouTube. And
that's a dead giveaway.
Yeah, Jackleg here just throws it out there, subconscious, to put it in Andrew's subconscious. Hey, maybe you can travel down to Fargo and buy some dope down there and help those guys out, and then I would knock off, what you need to do up here for me. What the hell?
That's insane. this is where everyone should start getting pissed off. Is because, good God, man, he's a kid. He's a kid. You just seen him to fucking Fargo, which most people, I don't know how big fucking Fargo is, but I know it's fucking bigger than where he's at.
Exactly.
It's the biggest city in North Dakota. So there's got to be people there. And where there's people, there's fucking dangerous people. And they're not going to fuck around.
No, and that's what I don't understand. This is where they're playing on, especially this goofball Weber is playing on, like you said, Andrew's age, but also his inexperience of being interviewed by the cops. Like I said before, you're an 18, 19-year-old kid that's grew up around on a cattle ranch. Most of the time, you're not going to have a thought. Worst thing you're going to have is DNR, Department of Natural Resources, Wildlife, Game, whatever, come out there and see if someone poached off your land or if your cattle got out or something like that. But that's probably the only thing dealings with law enforcement that you have. And now all of a sudden, you're in an interview room with a guy you don't know that's telling you, hey, you'll do anything to get out of these charges, right? I mean, you're looking at 40 years, but you might not have to do, just bullshit. Absolute bullshit. But anyway, and then he brings up the fact that he's spending his birthday being interrogated and threatened with Class A felonies. Now, this interview goes on for a while, and Goofball keeps on with the negatives, hinting that it would be a super smart move for him to be in the CI for not only the Sheriff's Department, but also the Simca. Now, the latter half of the video is a bit harder to dissect, but it does provide some interesting information that might have led to Andrew's fading outlook on his situation. So you remember he asked what the biggest amount Andrew could purchase, and when Andrew says a number, says that number is too high for that girl, he kind of balks and says, well, maybe you can get an ounce. Well, in the latter part of the interview, and they get to a point where Andrew names a name that he can get, where I guess he was getting his large purchase from that he started kind of selling on campus. And I guess Weber thinks that, the kid's talking 5 or 6 grams. The way it kind of comes out in the video is it's a hell of a lot more than that. And Weber's like drooling over it. And instead of saying, if you can get us a confidential buy on that amount, you're free and clear, of course, Weber gets greedy and hints that he still might need Andrew to make a couple of outlier buys, and which could raise the stakes on his credibility, which is horseshit, man. You can't keep casting that line back out there. But anyway, again, looking back, they're wanting him to go into a big city to make a controlled purchase as a confidential informant with a seller that's never seen or laid eyes on him. The first thing that guy's going to say is, how the hell did you get my name and number? Who told you that you needed to drive from Wahpeton down to Fargo or up to Fargo, wherever, and come talk to me? I don't know, man.
That is wild.
So, not only would him driving into Fargo to buy raise eyebrows from anybody that knows him, but it would also raise the stakes from him just being a little small-time dealer to he's trying to go pro. And while it's not a major threat or even intended to scare Andrew, the fact that Officer Weber put that idea into Andrew's subconscious could have planted the seed of a bigger issue. Hypothetically, Andrew could have been growing miserable with having the expectations of having to help the police, going behind his friends' backs, and most importantly, jumping into the shadowy underbelly of the bigger dealers that would most certainly entertain bodily harm for a narc. Now, a vast majority...
They tend not to take kindly to these type to narcs.
I had that damn soundbite. Are you a narc? A what? A narc.
Are you?
Are you not? A narc.
A narc. I'm sorry, a what? A knock. Look a knock. Am I speaking English here?
Oh, I love
Not
that.
something to laugh about, but that is a great movie. If you've never seen The Heat.
That is the best, man.
Yeah.
It is the best. All right, so a vast majority of law enforcement personnel and some fellow sleuthers of this case are steadfast, holding the line that Andrew committed suicide. Now, the Simca officers involved with the confidential informants claimed many of their confidential informants were trying to get out of their situations, with a lot of these people deserting the whole show and purposefully being arrested and choosing to do jail time over continuing to be exploited by Simca and make these controlled drug buys. While Andrew certainly didn't enjoy having to work for Simca, he never outright said he wasn't going to do it anymore or show explicit signs that it was stressing him out. In addition, Andrew never displayed suicidal ideations or tendencies, nor did he have any known struggles with mental illness. While I understand that does not rule out suicide, having zero history of ideations combined with an improved social and personal life at the time of his disappearance, and the fact that he doesn't have a history of anxiety or depression, creates more than a reasonable doubt in the old suicide theory.
Yeah, well, I'm saying, like, if you truly believed you were about to face 40 years and you truly believed that your life was about to be over and your entire family, all your friends are going to read about it in the newspaper, I mean, suicide's not completely unplausible.
No, it's not. And that's one thing I was going to make a point of.
Yeah, but I have to talk too.
Well, what I was going to say, you used the big word plausible, but that's what I was going to say. We've got the reasonable doubt that he wouldn't do it, but it is plausible, like you said.
I only know the word plausible because I love the Mythbusters.
Because they keep putting it on that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's like, oh, I learned a new word.
What now?
I'm not going to fit that into conversation.
Like me and plethora.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I would listen to an old episode, and I came across when I pointed out that my mom loved that you used it. I think it was the Kendrick Johnson case. I listened to it recently. So
I do remember Mama Coach.
She loved it. That was 2 years, man. Yesterday.
Yeah.
Friday, I'm sorry. 2 years. It sucks, but, you know.
She was a fine lady. Put up with your shit, sir.
She was a saint. You ain't kidding. Yeah, Dorothy Mandrake was a saint. Like, Mama Coach was a saint.
Yes.
I believe that's an Anchor 2 reference about Dorothy Mandrake was a saint. I'm not sure.
I think you're correct. We'll do it live.
We'll do it live.
Now, one key piece of evidence that does support the suicide theory, however, is the fact that the .22 caliber pistol belonging to the Sadek family went missing shortly before Andrew did. It would be reasonable to assume Andrew took said firearm with him at some point, maybe for protection or maybe for taking his own life. What turns this supposed clue on its head, though, is that the gun has never been found. It was never pulled from the Red River, despite numerous dive teams combing the riverbed. It was never recovered by another member of the Sadek family like, oh, shit, somebody left it in the attic. And because of such misfortune, it was never confirmed nor denied of being the actual weapon that took Andrew's life. Is it unlikely to be the bullet of another .22 caliber gun that killed Andrew? Probably not, but since the firearm was not present with Andrew's body or near the recovery point, it makes little sense for Andrew to have killed himself without a gun being somewhere in the vicinity of where his body was found.
Now listen, somebody might have found him and the gun, said to themselves, man, I'm just going to take that gun. He don't need it.
Well, that would be right, but
later on felt guilty about it and said, I don't know, man, this might can implicate me in the murder or the, and they ditched it.
Well,
highly unplausible.
To shit on your theory, his body was found by police dive team on a training exercise dive.
I'm saying,
now,
okay.
I will say
gonna
this, and I do love the fact that you brought this up because this will come back later. This does have shades of the Rampart Division of the LAPD, as well as the Red Dog Squad in Atlanta. And if you don't know what those are, we're going to tie those in a little bit further down.
Well, good, because I don't know what either one of those are. I'm thinking the first one maybe had something to do with Tupac.
It had something to do with the whole, it came to light because of Tupac's murder, but yeah. Anyway, King Kong ain't got shit on me, basically. Yeah.
I think that's where I heard about him as Tupac stuff.
So it's, like I was saying, it's not just the missing weapon that shits the bed on the suicide theory, but other missing items hint at foul play as well. Andrew's Tampa Bay hoodie wasn't on his person or in his car, and the jacket he was wearing when his body was discovered was not familiar to any of his friends, his girlfriend, or his family. In addition, Andrew's wallet was not found on his body, nor was it discovered in Red River after repeated searches. Another conundrum is that his body is found with his backpack on, but there's rocks in that backpack. I mean, big rocks.
Like crack rocks or?
Like riverbed rocks.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah. So the lack of a wallet could suggest robbery, and the lack of Andrew's clothes would suggest he engaged in some sort of physical activity between the time that the CCTV footage picks him up, leaving the dorm room, and him being found in Red River. What the disagreement could be is infinitely possible, but definitely could be a major piece in a puzzle leading towards a different type of hypothesis, one revolving around a murder angle.
Oh.
Now, most people investigating a possible homicide check on the status of serial killers or potentially serialized murders in the general vicinity of a victim. In this case, it would be Richland County, North Dakota in 2014. Sadly, there's no known serial killer with the calling card of how Andrew was found or matching Andrew's type. There's also no other missing people around the time of his disappearance. Now, yes, there is a possibility that these statistics can sometimes stay hidden for years or decades after the fact, patterns not realized until a significant amount of time has passed. Or a serial killer remains unidentified until he frucks up and gets captured. But in this situation, I think we can rule out the old serial killer angle. Now, there is a theory / conspiracy theory that centers around a covered up internal scheme orchestrated by Simca officers themselves. Now, this theory points out that it was the police who first suggested how Andrew must have committed suicide rather than be a victim of a homicide. It also hinges on how authorities have theorized that Andrew's disgust towards being a confidential informant turned him towards darkness and suicide. The police are on record stating that other confidential informants with similar personal histories as Andrew either committed suicide to escape responsibility or deliberately disregarded orders, deciding jail was better than risking their lives for undercover drug dealing. The problem with that is I couldn't find any of their confidential informants that committed suicide. Now, the people that claim that police were involved in Andrew's demise have strung together some wild hypotheses. One being that Andrew might have threatened to help his fellow buyers around campus and blow up Simca's operation. This would have forced law enforcement's hand on whether or not to let Andrew go or make him pay. It's a wild leap to believe authorities would go to such lengths to kill Andrew themselves, and then immediately point blame elsewhere. But weirder shit has happened. And again, I bring up the LAPD Rampart Division. And just a little backstory on them. This was a group of LAPD officers who not only stole from the drug dealers, they sold the drugs, they carried around firearms that were in like robberies and other homicides in their personal vehicles to plant on shooting victims that crossed them. And while not as bad, there was the Red Dog Squad in Atlanta that was a little similar. And if you're into the old police corruption angle and stories, get you a load of that LAPD Rampart Division. And yes, Denzel's character is based off one of the main leaders in that.
It was sad what the Russians did to him, though. That's it was. I mean, come on, man. He was so close.
Oh, I just watched
that's one of my favorite movies to go to sleep to.
The
Training Day, Waterworld, anything.
I could see Waterworld because damn,
Justified.
I fell asleep in that.
I watched Justified a lot. But no, I don't know. Something about Training Day, really. I like it. Man, it helps me sleep.
I just watched the third Equalizer. Man, he's a badass.
Yeah, I've only seen the first one, but it was good. I need to see the other two.
The second one's, you're like, this plot has been played out so many times, but it's still good. The third one's pretty cool. But anyway, all right. So they, as in the law enforcement, could have just charged Andrew with a felony and sent his ass to prison for his original offense instead of trying to have him killed. While it is lazy police work to just assume suicide was the correct label, it doesn't automatically jump straight forward past go to they had him killed. What it does show is the authorities' lack of interest in Andrew's case, blowing it off as suicide and not looking at other angles even after the family has approached them about it. Now, while the theories regarding his death are intriguing, one theory that is plausible is that Andrew was killed by someone only known to him. This could have been a result of his CI work, getting exposed, or a vague drug incident turning south. The biggest point to this argument is the fact that the item used to kill Andrew, a handgun, was not found with the body in Red River, or in the vicinity of the crime scene, or at any point since the discovery of his body. It's physically impossible for Andrew to have killed himself and moved his own body after the fact, leaving zero trace or breadcrumb trail leading back to the weapon. While it's peculiar that the family's gun went missing when Andrew did, it is highly probable that it is the gun used in his death, but just not by his own hands. There are logical explanations outside the issue of a self-inflicted headshot. And, for example, one of those would be if Andrew was aware his confidential informant work was exposed to other drug dealers around the area or fellow buyers around the college and the state, he might have taken the family gun as protection in case he was confronted by someone displeased with him being a knock. Another example would be that Andrew wanted the gun to intimidate someone that was putting a little heat on him, and it was stolen from him during a physical altercation. There's even a possibility that Andrew intended to use the weapon and found himself in a shootout that left him dead and the gun in the hands of whoever murdered him, with that person taking the gun never to be seen or found again. Now, we briefly touched on this. One oddity about his body being found was those rocks in his backpack. Now, that throws a huge wrench in the suicide theory, because weighing a body down is not a common indicator of suicide. It's more of an indicator of murder. The only other thing that would have made it seem like he had been found out as a CI would be if he had concrete blocks tied around his ankles.
Yeah.
Now, Had Andrew simply wanted to take his own life, the rocks in the river in general seems like an unnecessary step if you're going to shoot yourself in the head. The rocks feel like a ploy to hide something, not as an additional tool in taking his own life. In addition, he's wearing different clothes than what he was last seen in on the college campus CCTV footage. It's certainly plausible that he just changed clothes between leaving the campus and his disappearance, but with no leads pointing investigators towards where his Tampa Bay hoodie is at, it makes you wonder if someone had taken his hoodie off of his body in order to get rid of some evidence that points directly to murder. There is a theory that lines up with this that states that Andrew was actually killed somewhere else and then transported to Red River where he was found. The Sadek family had Andrew's car analyzed, and it was concluded that they found standing water. They call it sitting water, but standing water in the bottom of the vehicle, which was indicative to investigators that a wet mass had been sitting in the car at some point shortly before the car is discovered. This strongly hints that Andrew was put in the back of his own car prior to being dumped into the Red River. Now, there's a chance Andrew's killer dumped his body into a separate body of water, maybe like a pond or a shallow lake, and realized it was going to be too obvious or too close to the murder scene. They retrieved the body, moved him in the car, put his backpack on him, weighed his ass down with rocks, and then put him in Red River. On a similar note, the killer or killers could have gotten drenched themselves in Red River and soaked the car when they used Andrew's vehicle and drove away. Regardless, there was more than likely a second party that involved Andrew's vehicle, which resulted in its wet condition when found by investigators. But we will never be certain, because just like every other thing that always goes down with weird cases, just so happened that the security cameras over the university student parking lot that night, yeah, they malfunctioned. There's just a gap. Just decided there was a whole gap the night he was murdered. I mean, the night he disappeared. Biggest argument of all is Andrew's utter lack of history in battling mental illness, displaying signs of suicidal tendencies, or creating a single cause of concern in his family and friends regarding the idea he would take his own life. While Andrew had many difficulties in both his personal and social life, there is no evidence that he was contemplating suicide. In fact, at the time of his disappearance, besides having to complete his final 2 CI drug buys, Andrew was on the up and up. He had a great relationship with his girlfriend, was making excellent grades in his electrical classes. Dealing drugs could definitely have created an invisible emotion and psychological stressors around the end of his life, but the true darkness probably came in the people that Andrew encountered, both intentionally and unintentionally. The unexpected nature of crime and criminal underworld can bring forth demise in the blink of an eye. And all it takes is one wrong move or unlucky mishap for someone innocent to trip up in front of some nasty, nasty people. Thus, the risk in selling drugs, combined with working with the police at the knowledge of hardly anyone in his life, left Andrew vulnerable to the unjust nature of the confidential informant side effects. Nevertheless, the Sadek family wants everyone to remember Andrew for the person he was prior to the negative labels he received during the run-ins with Simca and low-level college drug peddling, which I wouldn't even call it drug peddling. He's selling marijuana, for God's sakes. I think there's now 24 states out of the 50 that you can buy it for recreational use. So you got that. But anyway, and the family wants you to remember a young man that was quiet, very bright, had endless potential, an honest hope for not only himself, but his family, his family and friends too. One silver lining in this whole story is that due to the diligence and bulldog tenacity of his mother, A law was passed in Andrew's name, and Andrew's law gives protections to other confidential informants and their rights to an attorney, and most of all, their rights to speak up and share their thoughts. While it is very sad that we won't know what happened to Andrew unless we get a confession from someone, like I said, at least his mother used this tragedy for some good.
I mean, that's true, but man, like, regardless of what happened to him, this is complete bullshit. It should be infuriating to anyone. And thank God that law exists now because of her. The cops should not be allowed to do that kind of shit to freaking children or to anyone, really. But to children, if he was murdered, those cops, I think that's why they're so hell-bent on determining it was suicide. But that doesn't make it any better. He was either murdered because he agreed to do a bunch of shit for cops that he shouldn't have, or he killed himself because he was scared that he was going to go to jail for the next 40 years of his life because of some bullshit the cops told him.
That's what I don't like, is the whole thing.
Ridiculous. Everyone should be infuriated by this.
And
this
that's
case
what
should piss you the fuck off.
Well, even if here's the thing. If you don't have children, think of your young family members. You wouldn't want them walking into a damn interrogation room where he's not been fucking formally charged. They've not even filed the fucking paperwork on a misdemeanor marijuana charge. They're dangling that shit over his head. Hey, you could go away for 40 years. That's horse shit. That's like dumbass in the West Memphis 3 taking that knife on that orange skin. I'm not saying these look the same, but I mean, you can look. I'm like, really, dude? That's the kind of shit that gives other law enforcement agencies and law enforcement officers a bad rep. Because one thing that I learned through our relationship with Jennifer Buchholz and the whole Rebecca Gould thing is there's a whole linguistic side of watching people answer questions, but more importantly, how officers ask questions. You don't ask leading questions. You don't berate them with these doom and gloom situations. Just ask him, hey, man, where'd you get the dope? Or when was the first time you considered selling dope? And most people are just going to verbally vomit, and give you more information than they normally do. You know, I think looking back, he asked in that little snippet that I read, he asked 4 or 5 yes or no questions. And those are, you're not going to get any information from somebody. And like I said, he could have used Andrew's ignorance to help him find out where the big drugs were coming. Who's he buying from? You think, hey, is she buying from the same person? You said you could buy from her. Who's she getting her stuff from? And then you can tie it back to one person, but that's not what they were doing, man. And I don't know. If you watch that 60-minute interview with that goofball on it, and I'll put a link to that video, hopefully on our socials, and you just want to reach through the screen and choke him. It's just, he gives that whole, doesn't matter if you sold drugs one time or you sell drugs for 20 years, you're still a drug dealer. And I'm like, dude, it's marijuana. It was 4.5 grams you got his ass on. I don't get it. I really don't. But anyway.
Dude, a friend of mine posted on Mysterious Brews. He said he was, it's time to wrap the golden candies of disappointment. The golden whatever candies of disappointment showed him like a picture of somebody wrapping Ferrero Rochers.
Yeah.
Unwrapping them and putting in Brussels sprouts.
Oh.
And I made the comment, I said, oh man, I was like, hold on, let me read the comment because I just got the notification. I said, bro, no, those are my favorite candies. I would burn your house down. And it got banned. I just got the notification from Facebook.
Are you
your comment
serious?
was removed. You shared something that could encourage violence and lead to risk of physical harm. Somebody
taking their job a little serious these days.
I really hope somebody didn't report me and they just...
Maybe burning and house and stuff like that. Maybe those are keywords and you get automatically banned. But if you are a douchebag, Karen, that looks for comments like that, to get people
You're
banned.
on the wrong page, bro.
Yeah, you need to get off our page quickly. So, circling this back out of that ditch, what do you think? I don't think he did. I don't think it was suicide. 100% he did not kill himself.
Oh, I agree.
I'm just not sure. Not saying, it's not plausible. I lean towards he got found out and he was probably confronted about it and then lied his way out of it, and then they probably had irrefutable evidence and something happened. And it could be a fellow person that was selling, or it could have been like a longtime customer of his or something like that, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, recommendations. Supposedly, I have not checked on the veracity or the verification of such claims, but I will say there is, if you have Amazon Prime, it's on Prime Video, but supposedly there is a whole series on Andrew's case called The Dakota Entrapment Tapes. I have not looked, but it says it's on there. And it was published in July of 2020. They're about 45 minutes each. They're saying that in one of the episodes, he led a double life. How?
Who did?
Andrew. He led a double life.
Oh, okay. I got
He
you.
was this, drug dealer on the side. I'm like, really? Drug dealer? I mean, unless he was pushing truckloads of marijuana.
It's just weed. Who gives a shit?
That's my biggest thing now.
There's not a single crime ever been committed while somebody was fucked up on marijuana, other than maybe robbed a damn burger, Krispy Kreme,
or stole some Cheetos.
Yeah. Like, come on, man. I don't smoke marijuana. I drink way more than I should. But I promise you that I am 100% behind that marijuana is much safer than alcohol. Come on.
100% agree. 100%.
If I didn't get severe panic attacks from smoking marijuana and I could do it without it, I probably wouldn't drink. There's no other way to numb the pain.
I can tell you this. If my anxiety didn't kick into overdrive, I could cut out about 7 of my prescriptions.
Seriously.
So, yeah. I'm all about the herbal remedy. And, hey, man, it's your deal. You do you, boo. I don't give a shit.
Yeah. Exactly. So that was your recommendation?
Yeah, look up the Dakota Entrapment Tapes on Amazon Prime if you have it. I've not looked it up. It was put out in 2020. It says first season. I'm not sure if there was another season, but
sometimes they do that. Like I've seen on weird streaming streaming things where it's like season 1, episode 1, and you look it up and it was like it's a 1-hour documentary, and like there's not ever going to be anything. They mislabel shit all the time. But my recommendation, and I was shocked to see the IMDb. The Rotten Tomatoes and whatever score on this movie. I meant to watch it when it came out last year. Whatever happened, forgot about it. But my girlfriend picked it out last night, and it's freaking good on Amazon Prime. Sylvester Stallone movie called Samaritan.
I've heard great things about it. I've never watched it.
Really good, especially if you like quote unquote superhero movies. I thought it was really good. I mean, you're not going to learn anything. You're not going to, you're not going
to be mentally challenged. Like,
yeah, you're not going to be a better person because of it. But if you got 2 hours to spare, it's freaking entertaining. I thought it was good.
That's all I want out of a movie. Just entertain me. I don't give a shit anymore. I'm tired of thinking.
Exactly.
By the time I get to watching a movie, I don't want to think.
Exactly.
I will say though, Interstellar is one of the better mindfuck movies. Like it's borderline M. Night Shyamalan.
Never seen it.
You would like fall asleep in part of it. But anyway, when it starts to unravel, it's like the M. Night Shyamalan thing when like his first one. I see dead people and you're like, what? Holy fuck. How did I not catch that? But anyway. All right. You got anything else out there, buddy?
You know I don't.
Deuces.